Jok Madut Jok is a professor of anthropology and the executive director of the Sudd Institute. He joins us from Syracuse in the U.S. Okay, so Jok, for a while we saw these protests building, and there were people calling for the military to take over again. However, does that really reflect sentiment across Sudan? Because now you have the other side out there protesting too, making it seem like the country could be divided. Or are these protests just making it seem that way?
No, Sudan has been a very, very divided society. Even after the breakaway of South Sudan, the remainder of Sudan remained very, very much divided along several lines. The regional divisions, the ethnic divisions, as you saw in your opening piece about people from the Red Sea Hills, the Beja people, feeling left out, very much a divided society along the lines of the civilian in the transitional government and the military, the remnants of Al-bashir, as a party to this coalition government. I think what we are seeing now is even further divisions between people who are saying the military should come back to power because the civilian government is not delivering. But since Saturday, we saw people on the other side, people who say that the civilian government must remain in power until the elections. And these protests since Saturday have actually, by certain accounts, became even more massive than the pro-military protesters in Khartoum. The protests have now made it to other cities, including in Kordofan and Darfur. So I think these divisions have shaken the prospects for a transition that has been in place for 2 years now and was slated to bring elections so that the Sudanese people can once again be able to select their leaders. So they are not just making it seem like a divided society, but indeed indicative of the depth of divisions.
It was just a few months ago we saw the U.S. praising this transitional government that had seemed to be working so well. You know, we recently had a good analyst on our show that said that while those protesters that we first saw were criticizing the civilian part of the government, what they really stood to lose was perhaps money from past corruption that government is trying to root out. Is that some of what might be at the heart of these protests?
At the heart of the confrontation between the pro-military protesters and the pro-civilian government protesters is indeed the issue of money and the issue of accountability for al-Bashir's era. The ruling council, the military part of this coalition government, is run by people like General Al-Burhan, people like Hameti, people who were linked to the Bashir era destruction. And the civilians asking for continuation of military control, perhaps even a return to al-Bashir-style military rule, stand to lose the gains that this government is making in terms of the debt relief, in terms of more loans from IMF and the World Bank, more investment to come into the Sudanese economy. They definitely stand to lose those. Should the military come back in a more robust way to return the Sudan to the ominous images when al-Bashir was in power. I don't think it is good for Sudan whatsoever for the military to come back in full control of the state. The current coalition seems to be the only bet that Sudan has in improving its situation. It's now caught between the austerity measures that are being recommended by the global community and the hard situation that people are feeling, not being able to afford commodities, and the suffering continues. I think that is really what the current coalition government needs to work out, and not to let itself be distracted by this division between those people who want the civilians to continue to rule and those people who want to bring the military back. I think that is a distraction from what has been a really promising course the Sudan was on.
All right, Jok Madut Jok, a pleasure having you.